on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/search. That's ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter.com/search.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Trump says he absolutely agrees with Attorney General Bill Barr that the government spied on his campaign in 2016.
And a lot of people understand, many people understand the situation and want to be open to that situation. Hard to believe it could have happened, but it did.
During a Senate hearing yesterday, Barr expanded on his spying remark to say unauthorized surveillance took place. 2 federal agents are injured and a person is dead in a shooting in the Phoenix area. ICE says the agents were trying to serve an arrest warrant connected to human smuggling. Video taken at the scene shows a pickup that slammed through a backyard wall and an SUV with gunshot damage to its windshield. Lawyers for WikiLeaks co-founder Julian Assange are fighting his extradition request from the U.S. UK officials confirmed the request for extradition is for an alleged computer-related offense. The Justice Department charges are connected to the WikiLeaks release of classified documents. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Hi everyone, it's Yanitza Munoz from the publications Maxim, FHM, and Sports Illustrated. So being a model, I have to work out a lot. It's tough staying in shape, especially keeping my abs. Until I discovered TC1 Gel. TC1 Gel is a thermogenic gel that you rub on your waist 15 minutes before exercising. Then simply put on the TC1 sweat belt and start your workout. You'll sweat like crazy and feel the burn. It focuses on boosting circulation, increasing perspiration. It activates body heat, reduces muscle fatigue, and burns off more calories. Get your TC1 Gel now. Go to tc1gel.com and use the code RADIO30 for 30% off discount on this amazing product. tc1gel.com and get your abs back or just get in shape. Follow their Instagram at tc1gel.
Hey guys, this is Andrew Caravella. Just wanted to let you know that KCAA has a new listener line for all of you that have a phone. Now you can listen to KCAA in the grocery store, in the doctor's office, or when you want to pretend you're on the phone with someone just so that creeper will leave you alone. Call 720-835-3099 today and listen to your favorite KCAA radio shows. That number again, 720-835-3099. KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no caller or listener behind.
Ontario Host Lions Club is hoping you'll come out to their 10th annual We Serve Golf Tournament. Check-in is 11 a.m. on Thursday, June 20th at Sierra Laverne Country Club. Ontario Lions supports 7 local charities and 8 area projects. Dean Munoz is the golf tournament chair. Give him a call at 909-481-1180. That's 909-481-1180. Come on out and golf at Sierra Laverne Country Club on June 20th to support the Ontario Host Lions. 909-481-1180.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Live from the NBC News Radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM. Located in beautiful sunny California, but it's a little overcast, but we'll take that. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone. I'm your host, Rob Starr, being solo tonight as my radio partner, Mr. Chris Davies. His voice is gone. I told him to stay home and have honey and tea, and I hope he's doing that. But I also suggested, since it's late and he needs rest, to have Jack Daniels in, honey, and I think that might help him a little even better. So anyway, welcome to the show. We have some great guests on today, and as usual, we have our most famous newscaster of water in the state of California, the purveyor of Maven's Notebook. I'd like to welcome Miss Chris Austin to the airwaves.
How you doing, guys?
We doing good. I think Chris is listening in, hopefully, or he's going to sleep. I hope he's resting. And I told him he didn't have to worry about not coming in. I know he's a trooper and always likes to come, but he needs his rest. We need him. We need him to move the show forward. And if he's not healthy, we can't do it without him. So
you're right. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. Hey, guess what's coming up for me next Wednesday?
What?
I just realized this today. It will be 12 years to the day that I started my very first California Water website.
Oh, wow.
12 years, a dozen years.
We need some applause.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, we're working on the applause here for a second. I got to get everybody in here from the studio to do that. And we're gathering everybody right now, and they're all standing in the corner. Now, guys, when I tell you to applaud, you all applause. Are they ready? Here we go. Give her a big applause. All right. Okay, go back to your cubicles now. Okay, they're all going back to their cubicles.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the shout out.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. So a lot's going on, even though the governor's not back in town yet. But there's a whole bunch of different things going on in the world of water today. And so one of the things I noticed is that officials are looking to Mexico for long-term water supply for us.
Well, yeah, some Southern California water agencies are looking in that direction.
Wow.
They're trying to build some desalination plants there south of the border, and
right.
They're trying to figure out how they can make some water trades.
Yeah.
Odd as it sounds, and Las Vegas even is sitting here thinking about how they can get in on the action in a way, by doing trades.
That's smart.
If we trade, you take that desalinated water and we'll take your Colorado River water.
Right.
So, it's amazing what they can do because all the systems are so interconnected now.
Yeah. Well, that's a big deal over in Israel between them and their enemies. They supply water to Iran as well.
Huh.
From Israel. So, your best enemy is or your worst enemy is your best customer. So maybe.
Well, yeah. And Israel has been, it's very, very dry over there. So, and they've had to really figure out how to make do. So they've done quite an amazing job of getting water and delivering it there. But their whole system, sort of in a legal sense, for delivering water is a bit different than what we have here.
Right.
And, theirs is more privatized in a sense, I guess.
It's all run by the government, right?
Yeah, it's not. Each city has its own water system, and I believe, this is my understanding, and I'm recalling, 4 or 5 years ago, so I might not have it right. But each there's a water company in each city, and that city is, you have to run that as a profitable business and, maintain your infrastructure and deliver your water to the people. And so they're able to take advantage of commercial opportunities, in ways that public water agencies can't. I mean, when you're a public water agency, you're held to a higher standard than a regular private business.
Right.
The private business, you've got to be profitable, and if you're not profitable, you're out of business. That's the way it works. When you're a public company, now you're taking people's money, and you are responsible to say how you're spending that money. And so it's hard to take business risks when you're in that position, because if you take a risk and you risk a lot of your ratepayers' money and it flops, you have to now go back and you have to justify that to regular people, in a way that a private company doesn't necessarily have to. So it's tough. You know, they operate under a lot of constraints. We do, because we have our public water agencies. And investor-owned agencies aren't free to do exactly what they want either, because they have to go in front of the Public Utilities Commission to raise their rates. It's a little bit different structure, but
right.
You know, it's different over there in Israel, and they've come up with some really amazing and innovative things, and they're really trying to get a toehold here in California, but it's, you know, getting into the water business is difficult when you're dealing with a lot of public agencies. It's not the same as business.
True, but
government is not business. It's just not.
Yeah.
And,
well,
you know,
well, the people over there are conditioned differently about water than we are here, as well. The public there.
Oh yeah. Well, they know they're in a desert. They know that this water's precious stuff, and I highly doubt you go around Israel and you're going to see people with, you know, lawns out in front of single-family homes.
Right.
I'm sure it's quite different. It's quite different, actually. You go out to a place like, say, 29 Palms, and you won't see, you know, a lot of lawns out there either.
Right.
So, you know, people that live in the middle of the desert looking at the sand dune and the dry brush understand. It's a little bit harder, I think, here in Southern California, where we sort of manufactured a bit of an oasis, it looks like. So it's hard to understand, I think, here in Southern California in a lot of ways, that, you know, you have to be careful with water, because not everybody is connected to the fact that the water that we bring in comes from so very far away.
Yep. Yeah, it's a total different story out here in the West. I also understand that the California Water Commission is using floodwater, or thinking about using floodwater for managing the aquifer recharge, which I think is a good idea. So they want to use the floodwater with a focus on the on-farm recharge, which I think is a smart idea.
Yeah, they've really been doing a lot of work, you know, because a lot of these Central Valley, you know, groundwater agencies now have to figure out how to come into balance. And so they have been doing a lot of experiments with on-farm recharge and flooding fields. And like they found, for instance, in Northern California, they can flood alfalfa during the winter season. And if the geology of the soils underneath the farmland is good, that water will just sink right down into the aquifer.
Yep.
And, you know, there's not a lot of nitrogen fertilizer used on alfalfa fields, so that's a really good candidate for being able to sink water into the aquifer without increasing contamination. You do have to kind of be careful. But there is a farmer out in, I believe he is a bit south of Fresno, Don Cameron of Terra Nova Ranch, and he has actually been experimenting with this since like as early as the 1980s, bringing water onto his farm and sinking it into the aquifer. And, you know, he has flooded his grapes and his almonds. He's tried this on all sorts of crops, and he's really been a great leader. He also happens now to be president of the State Board of Food and Agriculture, so that helps, too. And he's really promoting this, you know, because really the farmland is, in the wintertime, in the Central Valley, most of it's going unused, and if the soils are right, it's great opportunity to sink water into the aquifer to replenish some of these aquifers. You know, when we have high water years like we did this year. So I'm sure that a lot of water got sunk into the aquifers this year. A lot of people have a focus on doing this and trying to work on getting more of these projects going.
What's his name again, did you say?
Don Cameron with Terra Nova Ranch.
Don Cameron. I'll have to talk to him. It sounds really interesting what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, you should bring him on the show.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It'd be great. It'll be a great conversation. We can have you back, and we can help question him.
Yeah.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
Yeah, he's a real innovator, you know, in this. on-farm recharge, because he figured out that, they were going to have to start getting water back into their aquifer. He figured that out, decades before the state of California was able to implement, groundwater recharge. It's not that the state didn't want to have groundwater recharge legislation or groundwater management legislation, but there was a lot of pushback to that idea until we came up against the big drought, and that's when people finally got to that stage and said something needs to be done.
Well, it takes a lot of private industry and private people to come up with ideas that maybe can sort of not bypass the government, but at least give them some ideas to move these things forward, because it's all necessary. I also, you and I talked about clean water for California and how bad it is in some places. So I guess that the trust legislation is advancing in a bid for cleaner water. So California is seeking arranged utility marriages. Are they going to come willingly, or are they just going to take over by eminent domain, do you think, on some of these little private ones that, that don't have any money and can't do anything except put out bad water all day? What do you think is going to happen with that?
In the answer to a lot of the contaminated water in a lot of these rural areas really is consolidation, and building these systems into larger systems and then getting some professional management of them. I read a few weeks ago that in Inyo County, which is on the eastern Sierra, Independence, just, south of Mammoth, that area had as many as, I can't remember the exact number, but I believe it to be something like 180. If you realize how few people live out there, some of these systems are like 5 houses, and some are, maybe a dozen, and they're just scattered throughout the landscape. And this is sort of the way that a lot of these places have grown up. But these small water systems can't really deal with, the treatment costs, right, especially in areas where, now, out in Inyo County, I believe they do not have groundwater contamination. But in the Central Valley, they sure do.
Right.
And if you're a small, 12 or 18 system, you serve a trailer park, for instance, for farm workers with one well, it just can't, it's just impossible to serve that clean water. And a lot of these small systems sit just outside of larger systems that could incorporate these smaller systems into them, but for a multitude of reasons, and not all of them, very nice, I have to say. Yeah. There is, issues. Communities of color have been excluded, and so they're drinking bad water when they could easily be hooked up to a better system and be drinking better water. So, they're really trying to. They tried to encourage this, and I don't think they got a lot of assistance with that. So I believe that there was legislation passed that kind of gave the water board a little bit more teeth to go in there and say, okay, you're going to take on this neighborhood and going to, serve them clean water. Because a lot of cases, it's not that far away, and it's not that hard to do.
No, but there's still a cost. Is this the part that Governor Newsom wants to add a tax or a fee for every home to help pay for that? Because as a water agency, sometimes it's not going to be, they're not so close, and the infrastructure is not so good, so there's going to be a lot of dollars spent. Is that what that's going to go to? And then how is that money prioritized, and are they going to split it equally, or maybe one agency comes in and says, hey, I need $100 million or $50 million to do all of this stuff, and where am I going to get it?
Well, I know that the initiative to push larger systems to incorporate smaller systems that are near their service area and can be easily accommodated. That came about, I believe, a couple of years ago in the legislature. That's not as a result of Newsom coming onto the picture. But that only takes care of some people. And there are a lot of other, systems in the Central Valley and in the Salinas area valley that are just off. They're just very remote. And really, what they're dealing with is contamination that comes from farming, dairies,
fracking,
that type of thing.
Well,
and to a certain extent too, there's natural pollution or natural contaminants in the aquifers. The arsenic.
Right.
There's a lot of arsenic throughout the Central Valley and probably in other parts of California, and that wasn't put there by any farmer or anything. That's naturally occurring in the soil and in the aquifers. So. And actually what they were finding is that as these aquifers get drained down, the sediments that contain these chemicals, the naturally occurring arsenic, they get squeezed, and the arsenic is coming now out into the water. So it's actually increasing.
Do you think the federal government should start taking some of the money that they have and putting it into some of these agencies so they can get everybody up to clean water? Because all over the country, I mean, yes, we have it in California, but they still haven't fixed Flint, Michigan. And when you got all these 100-year-old pipes in the ground, that's going to be an undertaking. I mean, I don't even know how they could do that to fix it all.
Yeah, and when you're out in rural America, I mean, rural America has been, I think, has been a challenge. It wasn't all that long ago that they finally got broadband service up to 395 on the Eastern Sierra. I mean, those people were in, they were still on modems just even recently a few years ago. When's the last time you used a modem? I mean, it's like the infrastructure out to rural America, especially broadband and electrical and all sorts of stuff, is very challenging to these remote communities.
Right.
And I think I would probably hazard to guess that that's been an issue for rural America for decades, and not just in water, but in a lot of other areas. I went up to Canada with my husband, about 10 years ago with the family, and they have, you drive through some of these rural communities, and they're just look like really pleasant places to live. Right. I don't know. Canada, I think, has done a better job somehow of supporting their rural communities, but it's been difficult. And, America is a very far-flung place, and, you go and people go out in the middle of nowhere and, sink a hole in the ground and say, here we are, and, we're establishing life. But getting modern services out to far-flung areas, that's a challenge. I think, quite honestly, it's hard to look to the federal government at this point in where the federal government is and be hoping to get large amounts of funding coming our way. I'm not seeing that. I'm actually seeing things going the opposite way. Money going the other way.
How does somebody? I can't imagine somebody like you said with a place that has 5 people or 18 in some trailer park buried out in the boondocks. How does somebody think they can operate a water agency? And they have to know they're not providing clean water. I mean,
they can.
Yeah.
You go out, you say, I'm starting my trailer park, and here's my little well, and here y'all go, and, people come out and live there. And again, we have to keep in mind, people of means may look at that and say, well, why in the world would they ever choose to live there? But we have a housing crisis.
Yep.
And housing is difficult, and people end up living where they can live, not necessarily where they choose to live. And the water that comes out of your faucet is sometimes the water that comes out of your faucet, and you got to figure out how you can live with that.
Oh, that's true. That's very true. Anything else that's important today that you've heard about?
Oh, well, Bruce Babbitt is trying to get some voluntary settlement agreements going with some of the water users in the Sacramento Valley and the San Joaquin Valley. And, he came out and he successfully negotiated an agreement, the Bay Delta Accord, in 1994. So he's hoping for a similar ability to get that done this time. We'll see how it goes. Some people are very willing, and I have to say that they put a lot of stuff on the table.
Yep.
Even including money and funding to get some of the science and some of the improvements that need to be done. But there are other parties in the mix that aren't so agreeable. So we're going to see what happens. They have until June 30th, I believe it is, to come back to the State Water Board with a more solid plan, and we'll see if it works. The idea here being that if they can get the water users on these rivers to agree to certain things, including some more water, including money to restore habitat along these rivers, that they'll get a better outcome than if the State Water Board forces, regulations among people. So we'll see how that goes.
I hope it turns out well. That's all I can say. It's you're never going to get 100% of the people, but you got to keep trying. So, hey, Chris, we appreciate you coming on today. We'll hope to hear you again next week. And like I said, we read your stuff every single day. And for those of you who are listening, please go to mavensnotebook.com. It's the best source for water news in California if you're living here or just anywhere in the country or world and want to know what's happening here. We learn a lot of stuff that's applied here in California that works, and sometimes it doesn't work, but at least you find out what's going on. If you want to be a subscriber to Maven's Notebook, please go to that website, and you can do that too and get daily updates as we do every single day. So, Chris, thank you very much, and I'm sure my other Chris who's home, and hopefully I want him to listen to the show, but I hope he's sleeping. He needs his rest and his voice back. So if he's listening, Chris, we miss you, and get better, and hopefully I'll see you next week. And Chris, we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, good evening, guys.
Okay, and we're going to take a short little break here. We'll be back in a minute with our next guest, so stick around. Second half of the Water Zone. Be back in just a second.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
If you knew there was a pipe cement that works better than the one you're currently using, is better for you and the environment, and costs the same or less, would you buy it? Oh, no-brainer, right? Weldon, the trusted leader in solvent cements for over 60 years, is pleased to introduce a new line of solvent cements that does all that. Introducing the Eco Series line of solvent cements for PVC piping systems. Not only does it work great and set fast, it also has 30% lower solvent emissions and less smelly fumes, a better workplace environment when you're installing pipes. But don't just take our word for it. Eco Series products are the only solvent cements that are Green Seal certified for environmental innovation for effective performance, improved working conditions, and for use with potable water. Now available in a medium-bodied fat-setting blue formula, 905 Eco, and a regular-bodied fat-setting clear formula, 900 Eco. Pick up a can today from your local distributor and see, smell, and feel the difference, just like Joe Sweat, president of Sunrise Irrigation, did. He said, after using Weldon's 905 Eco, we immediately noticed the application was smooth and there was noticeably less odor than other blue solvent cements on the market. The guys love it. To learn more about Eco Solvent Cements from Weldon, Visit the website at www.welldon.com or call the technical service hotline at 877-477-8327. That's 877-477-8327.
Time to take a water break and talk some water. Irrigation. Such a refreshing topic. As more and more markets face water restrictions, your customers may be hungry, or should I say thirsty, for water-saving products. For new installations, add options like drip irrigation, controllers that respond to weather data, pressure-regulating heads, or heads with check valves. They all provide easy ways to differentiate your bids and win more jobs. Or for an extra stream of revenue, offer existing customers upgrades like high-efficiency nozzles, rotary nozzles, or Wi-Fi-based controllers. Because when you help your customers save water, you make a world of difference for the earth and your bottom line at the same time. We'll drink to that.
Welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. And, today I was talking to Nick, our engineer here in the booth, and it's all Women Day today, except for me. And so I guess we should title this "The Wonderful World of Water Women in the World." Bunch of W's. But anyway, we do got some really good ladies coming on the show, and want to bring them on. And first, introduce Miss Mary Ann Dickinson and Miss Maureen Urbesnik. And ladies, welcome to the Water Zone today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got to turn you up in my monitor here because it's pretty low. I can hear you now. So, Mary Ann and Maureen, since we're not all sitting, I assume you're not together. Is that correct? Meaning you're
right.
At different locations. Okay, so we'll try to do this. Just jump in when you want to, because that's the easiest way, because you can't see each other, and do that. So the title of what we're going to talk about today is landscape transformation, and what did AWE find? First of all, for our listeners who are non-professionals and not in the industry, Mary Ann, can you describe what the AWE is?
Sure. That stands for Alliance for Water Efficiency, and it's a national nonprofit organization that works on water efficiency programs in both the residential indoor and outdoor and commercial and industrial indoor and outdoor sectors. We work with water utilities, we work with business and industry, we work with government agencies and water planners. So we work across the U.S. and Canada, but we also have a California chapter called the California Water Efficiency Partnership, and we do a lot of work in California with an office in Sacramento.
Great. And I know when you and I were talking a week ago, we talked about sustainable gardens and landscapes and things. And Maureen, maybe you can comment on, because a lot of people that I talk to, my neighbors, about sustainable gardens, they don't understand the term sustainable. They think it means they can plant anything and it can grow, and they don't know anything else that goes with it, like water and that. Can you kind of explain that to everybody?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a couple different answers to that question about what is sustainable, and it kind of depends upon in the region that you live in. You know, a lawn can grow in the East Coast without irrigation, and that would be sustainable for that region. In, Southern California, that might be defined as something different. We don't want it defined as gravel, rocks, and cacti, basically. So it may include native plants, it may include grass that's irrigated, but it would be irrigated with high-efficiency nozzles, high smart controllers, drip irrigation, things like that.
Okay. So to get more into this landscape transformation and what did the Alliance for Water Efficiency find, how did this research get started?
So one of the things that the Alliance does is a fair amount of research into topic areas that are needing research, needing answers to questions that people are asking. How much water can be saved if you change out the landscape material? Do the customers like it? Do the savings persist over time? What are the ways customers want to participate? What are the barriers that keep them from participating? These were the kinds of research questions that we wanted to look into with this study. So we worked with 17 different utilities across the country. Many of them are in California, but they're also in as diverse a spot as Canada, the Region of Peel in Canada, and the city of Seattle, as well as Metropolitan Water District, San Diego County Water Authority, City of Sacramento. So we had a good range of California utilities who participated in this study, and they had been conducting programs like this, and they shared their data and their information with us and allowed us to survey their customers to find out answers to the questions that I was just asking. So the study was released in February, and we did a big launch of all of the study results. There are webinars that you can listen to for free that outline what the study results are, and the study is, of course, also posted on the Alliance for Water Efficiency website. But what it did was answer a number of those questions about these programs. Do they work? Are they effective? And should we continue to do them? And the answer really simply to all those questions is yes. And there's lots of further detail about what those yes answers mean.
So before we get into in depth a little bit more, the Alliance for Water Efficiency, it's comprised of a bunch of different types of members. Can you kind of briefly tell our audience what that is and who they are, if you can?
Sure. So we have close to 500 members across the country. Most of them are water utilities. I would say we probably have 60% of our members are water suppliers. And we also have 30% of our members are business and industry. Irrigation manufacturers, for example, are members of the Alliance for Water Efficiency. And then government agencies that implement policies requiring water conservation, they're also members because they want our help in helping them define what policies make sense, what ones are cost effective. Conservation makes economic sense if you do it correctly, and so our job is to help all of our members do the best possible conservation programs to save the most water at the most effective cost.
Right. So why is this landscape transformation and irrigation efficiency so important to your organization and everybody else?
Well, as it turns out, we've gotten a fair amount of savings on the indoor side. What we really see is that outdoor water use is not as efficient as it could be, and it forms a very big piece of how much residential water is used there. In some parts of the country, it's anywhere between 60 and 80% of residential water use is outdoor landscape use. And so we want to make sure in those areas, particularly in the arid West, that water is used as effectively as possible. And we want the customers to also be partners in that process and be happy with the landscapes that they have. One of the surveys, and Maureen will tell us a little bit more about what the customers wanted, but we wanted very much to find out what was important to them in their landscapes and what in transforming their landscapes and making them more sustainable, what were the things that they liked and didn't like, because that's important to keeping the savings in place.
Do you find a difference between homeowners and homeowners associations with the bigger commercial properties, where they're looking to, especially like a rental or condominium place, where they need the curb appeal so people come and say, hey, this is a beautiful place to live, so I'm going to stay here, versus a single family residence that just do a little bit of landscaping. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Do you see a difference in that?
Well, homeowners associations actually are easier to work with in some respects because they often are on dedicated meters that can be managed to a budget. And so those common area properties and the irrigation in a homeowners association can sometimes be well managed as a group. But in this study, we were focusing really on the single family homes and helping the customers who had their own lawns and their own landscapes, see if they would participate in programs that would help, mix up a little bit the landscape types to use plants that are much more less water using and more adaptable to the local situation.
And along with providing some beauty and such.
Right, and beauty was what was important to them.
Yeah. And I don't
so,
think
Maureen,
that's
you should go through what you
HOA.
found in the surveys that you did with the customers.
Yeah, I don't think that it would be really any different than an HOA and a single-family homeowner. I think that customers care about beauty. They care about beautiful functional landscapes. And a lot of times, especially in specific regions, it's long been seeded that the lawn is that beauty. And we really found that customers, it wasn't just lawn. They care about aesthetics, definitely, and color, but beauty was most important. And when we dug down even further, beauty was defined differently amongst different customers, too. So it had, it's a very personal choice, and I think that's what makes it challenging for an HOA or a single-family home, is it is a personal choice, and people feel very connected and emotional about their landscape.
Right. So when you talk about this landscape transformation, from your both perspective, how would you define that?
So we actually spent a fair amount of time defining it in this study, and the definition we came up with is the following. Landscape transformation is the act of a customer transitioning from a traditional high water use landscape design and products to water efficient and sustainable landscapes, reducing the amount of irrigation water requirement and then outdoor water use, and reducing the outdoor water use. And what we mean by sustainable landscapes is landscapes that have climate-appropriate landscape designs, as well as efficient technologies to irrigate those landscapes. And they're maintained through efficient irrigation practices. But these are landscapes that also support homeowner goals, community water objectives, and healthy watersheds. They're not just landscapes that are going to be stripped bare of green material, like Maureen said earlier. We're not talking about cactus and rocks.
Right.
We're talking about beautiful flowering shrubs and plants and landscapes that people like to recreate in. And they will want probably parts of turf in their landscapes, especially if they have children.
Yeah. Do you think people kind of understand that they should treat their property like what's the right term I'm looking at? Like a watershed, I guess is the best way to put it. So they know how to manage the water. I mean, because it's more than just planning, and going buying. And, everybody says, well, I can go spend the money and put this in, but then what do they do with it afterwards?
I don't think many customers understand what a watershed is. I mean, one thing that probably the most clear thing we learned is that customers are really disconnected from their outdoor water use. Most customers thought that they use more water indoor and that they already have efficient equipment. So we know there's a big educational gap there, and it's a top priority in utility programs moving forward.
Do you see, Maureen, in the future that I know some cities are putting in 2 meters for the home, one for the indoor water, one for the outdoor? Do you think that's ever going to catch on to be a mandatory thing in places like in the south, west, and the west?
I mean, maybe for new construction, but for built-out cities, it's quite costly. So I'm not saying it will never happen, but I think more than that, there'll be new innovative technologies that somehow help you decipher what's outdoors. Some sort of sub-metering of some kind, technology like that, where people can understand how much they use outdoors. But when people just, I try and explain it to customers. Everyone is very concerned about their one shower, but when you're looking at a landscape and the pop-up heads, those are all showers, going off for several minutes, several times a week, in the middle of the night when people just, they're not aware of it. They're not paying attention.
Yeah. The study found that 53% of the customers surveyed thought they only used between 10 and 30% of their water outdoors, where it was, orders of magnitude more than that. And these programs we also found in the study, they do save water. Looking at them all on average, across the 17 communities that participated in this study, the savings ranged from 7% when they were just doing outreach and support and not much else, to 39% when they actually were paying for landscape replacement. So there's a considerable amount of water that can be saved with landscape programs that are designed well and that help to educate the customer to all of these issues.
Yeah, in our business, we see a lot of people that have lots of lateral lines. They don't use check valves on slopes, and when water goes off, I mean it's turned off from the valve, but all the water leaks out of the bottom of the lowest head. They don't realize for a 10 to 20 cent part that goes in the bottom of a spray head, it stops all of that, and you don't have to refill all the pipes every time you turn the water on to do that. I mean, so many things of how to run a smart irrigation. The people that did the study that participated, was it? You said it was all across the country, or there are specific areas that you can kind of tell us? Because obviously it's different in New Jersey to California to Texas to,
So we did have different regions of the country participate, but many of the communities were from California. So we had the city of Santa Rosa, we had the city of Sacramento, we had the Sonoma County Water Agency, Cal American Water, city of Petaluma, North Marin Water District, San Diego County Water Authority, Metropolitan Water District. I mean, those are all California agencies. But we also had the Southern Nevada Water Authority, so the Las Vegas area. We had Austin Water from Texas. We had the city of Fort Collins in Texas. And we had the city of Seattle. People think of Seattle as being in a typically wet area, but they go through dry periods, and they need, outdoor irrigation efficiency as well.
Right.
So, and then we also had a Canadian participant, from the city of Guelph in Ontario. And they had been doing landscape transformation programs even up in Canada. So it was a good geographic spread to help us determine that this wasn't just a California phenomenon. This was something that we were seeing across the country.
Excellent. Hey, we do have a caller that's going to ask you ladies a question, and I see the name is Mike, and I think it's the Mike that I used to know, and I still know him. He used to be our co-host. Mr. Mike Barron, is that you?
It is.
Hi.
Hi. I was listening, and I go, what great guests are on the program this evening, and I had to call in, and I was taken by your comment, Maureen, about the disconnectedness between the homeowner and the actual use of water in the outdoor landscape, because I think that is very consistent with my own perception. And I was curious if you've explored the potential role of a water sensor or water meter built into the irrigation controller, so that a homeowner could actually recognize how much water was being consumed, how many units of water.
Mike, it's so good to hear your voice, and I think it's probably the number one problem, and I would say it for two reasons. One is data and customers having information, or even when we're talking about check valves and precip rates and distribution uniformity and lateral lines, pipes are under the ground, customers aren't paying attention to it. Like I said, it happens at night. They don't have any information to be able to value it. And that without them valuing it, them making changes, that it's just, we have to make that connection in order for our programs to scale. So I do think it's great to thinking about putting it into controllers. There is, some really new innovative technology that's coming out with the Wi-Fi controllers and flow sensors and things like that. But I think we need to work better with the irrigation industry, utilities, to say, and customers, and go, this is what customers want, this is what utilities need, this is what they can pay for, what the irrigation system, companies can be able to bring to customers. I think there's a lot of barriers to really getting some innovative stuff.
Well, there's a lot of water agencies that have online software that you can go onto the website and actually track your home usage for water. But, this is something I learned from Mr. Barron 16 years ago. And he was telling me a story. I still remember it, Mike, so I didn't forget. So he gave an analogy that when you go and get gas in your car and you're standing there pumping the gas in, you can actually watch the gas meter there, and you can see, every gallon that's going in and what it costs instantaneously. Unlike your water, you don't know that until your water bill comes a month or 3 months later, and it's too late then.
So that's changing, where many utilities are putting in what's called advanced metering infrastructure, where the metering can be relayed to a customer portal and a dashboard where a customer can actually look, perhaps even on their phone, and actually see their real-time water use, going. It depends on what the utility software interface is with the customer, and increasingly we're seeing a lot more of these sort of real-time daily reports on customer water use, especially if they have a leak. So in my home district, we have these advanced meters, and I had a valve leak in my irrigation system, and within 24 hours, I got a notice from the utility telling me that I had a leak and I should fix it. So it was a very helpful way for me to find out that a leak that I couldn't see, that was underground, that was showing as continuous water use in the meter. So the question is, how do we get the information that the utility can see on that side out to the consumer so that they see it in real time as well? And that's, I think, something that's developing.
Wouldn't it be really cool that your kids are in the shower and it's more than their 2-minute or 5-minute shower, and you press a button on your phone and you can turn off the water and they stand there? Well, we got to take a little break, so please, everybody, if you could stay with the show. Well, we'll be back in just 1 minute, just to take a little quick break from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back in 60 seconds.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
All right. I know you ladies talked about what did they learn, what did the customers learn, and what do they care about the most. But do the programs, did they actually save water, and do you think customers are happy with their current landscapes?
Well, I think Marianne spoke to the fact that, every program evaluated saved water. Education around 7%, mulch delivery 13%, and some of the more aggressive turf replacement programs 39%. And what's really interesting too is that specific program that saved 39%, the savings went up over the first couple of years because there was some time to establish plants, but then they persisted over 10, 15 years, which is really amazing. And I think what that also speaks to, because customers also, they were very clear. They like the great majority of customers who changed their landscapes were happy with their low water use landscapes and felt it was worth the investment.
Yeah, actually the statistics were really pretty startling. 91% in the survey said they were satisfied or very satisfied with their new landscape, whereas before when they were surveyed about their current landscape before the transformation, only 21% said they were very satisfied. So this was an important change in perception on their part, that their landscape now was something that they really wanted to have going forward.
Were there some customers that were holding back from making any of these changes?
Sure. I mean, I think we know people are ready to accept it, but customers, there's multitude of barriers.
Was it cost? Was cost, use of the technology, or?
No, cost is the number one barrier.
Oh.
And that which makes sense. And then second is they still are worried about the look, and I think it's overwhelming. Just even personally, when you think about, I thought about doing mine. It's like you have, your piece of grass that's easy, it's easy to mow. You can think about it. So I think it can be it can be overwhelming for customers, and they need help. I think that they need help with design, they need help with, and they clearly told us that, and they need help with implementation. And they want
long-term maintenance
to do it
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did most of these people, I don't know if this is a great question that you can answer, but did the homeowners take care of their property themselves, or did they have a landscape service that came in and did it?
What's interestingly enough is that we didn't specifically ask that question, but I did see it I have seen it in another study in the Riverside area where the majority of customers said that they might have a gardener, but they are responsible for and maintaining and they're responsible for the irrigation and changing the controller.
Right. I don't know too many. I had a question with my marketing department many times, and one of the questions I said, they said that everybody, the contractor has to go out there and adjust everything. I don't see very much people have the controllers that let the landscape guy come or the gardener come and touch their irrigation controller. Now, Mike, you've been in the business longer than me. Do you see that as a common thing? I don't. Or that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I think it varies. I think, 10, 15 years ago, because the gardener was held responsible for the aesthetic performance of the landscape,
right,
they began to overwater because they wouldn't necessarily get fired because they used too much water. They would get fired because the yard didn't look very good. And that goes to the aesthetics, the beauty of the landscape. But today, I think those customers, those homeowners that do a landscaping change, a transformation, or utilize some of the rebate programs that the utilities provide, they're more invested in their landscape, and they're I think also more aware of the water-consuming portion, or that the landscape does take more of that water bill than they thought. So I think education is embedded in that process. I know, Rob, you and I at one time said, hey, we asked builders, or we would ask homeowners that would be looking at new homes, and what's the appliance at the home that is the largest consumer of water? And no one ever picked the sprinkler system, and yet that is the single largest user of water.
But when you're think about it, when you're ingrained, people are when you're young, they're telling you to turn off the water while you brush your teeth and take a shorter shower. So and it's really tactile. You're using your washing machine. You're very much more. You're interacting with them in a very different way. Yeah. And I think what you just said was, once a customer is involved and they go through this process, they become very well educated, and that's why I think those savings persist over time, is because now they know. The question is, the problem is we've only gotten sort of the top level of customers. We need to be able to scale and dig deeper, and not just about lawn replacement, but about efficient irrigation in general. We need to educate at a whole different level.
Yeah. I know. I got in a discussion with one of our sons who moved back to the home, and it was about 11 o'clock, and I said, hey, why are you going to do the laundry at 11 o'clock? And I said, I don't want to do that because it makes too much noise. He said, I'm trying to save this when the rates are the lowest. So at least he's thinking about it, so that's a good thing. Well, anyway, we're up against the hour, and we got to go to our news. And ladies, I really appreciate you coming on the show. We'd like to have you back and talk about some of these things in more depth, if you would do that. And Mike, it was great to hear you. Thanks for calling in. And
thanks, Mike and Rob.
So everybody, you have a great week. Join us next week for our great show. And remember, the most important thing you got to do next week, think blue. Good night, everybody.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
California headline news. A late rapper Nipsey Hussle to be remembered in Los Angeles today. A service taking place at Staples Center. People coming from all over the country to attend. Rapper T.I.
We lost a soldier, man. We lost a great guy, a legend. You know what I mean? A legend, a king. And we all should be here paying our respects. Everybody should, in whatever way you can.
This morning's service will be followed by a